Welcome to the Money Insights Podcast, where high-income earners come to learn wealth-building strategies that will take them from high income to high net worth. With your hosts, financial and wealth-building experts, Christian Allen and Rod Zabriskie.
Welcome into the Money Insights Podcast, where we talk all things money and business. I am not your typical host, Christian Allen. Instead, I'm Blake Brogan, wealth strategist here. And on the line, we have Rodney the Pod Zabriskie. Rod, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Yes,
Gosh,
you are.
Blake, that was good. That was good. I'm impressed. Okay, so Blake told me yesterday that he could do he was going to do his version of my intro, and you pretty much nailed it. So nice work, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for filling in. Okay, so today I'm going to let everybody know kind of what we're doing, since we obviously have more than our usual group of people on. So as always, I've got Rodney the Pod on. Rod, what's up?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Okay, we've got Blake Brogan, Blake the Snake, Blockley, all of those things. Blake, how you doing?
It's Balake, Christian.
I know. As I said it, I was like, that doesn't sound right. Sorry. Balake. Okay, say it one more time.
Balake.
Okay. Okay, we've got Blake Brogan. We've got Brennan McConnell. Brennan, what's up, man?
How you doing? Glad to be here.
I'm sorry, Brennan, I don't have nicknames for everybody, but
That's
I'll
all
work
right.
on it. We've got John Reeves. John, how you doing?
Doing great. A little bit worried about this.
We're excited to have you. John's the newest member of the Money Insights team, and so he's probably feeling a little apprehensive today, but we'll get into why in just a second. And then finally, we have Tim the Tool Man Whelan.
I'm ready to go.
All right, Tim, good to have you, man. Okay, so today we thought we would do something, what we hope that's fun and interesting. Today we're going to do it like Money Insights game show style. Before we get into the game show rules and kind of what we're going to be hitting on, a couple of quick announcements. Want to remind everybody that we have coming up on May 4th, our virtual summit. It is the alternative wealth building virtual summit for high income earners. Whew, that's a mouthful. But we're really excited about it. We've got a really good group of speakers. We have Sharon Lecter, we have Buck Joffrey, we have Tom Wheelwright, we have Adam Carroll, Ken McElroy, Rodney the Pod. Who am I missing?
Yourself.
And me. Okay. Awesome. Well, we're excited about it. We might have some other people to go with that, but put that in your calendars and look out for information coming out over the next couple weeks. Okay, so today's episode, like I said, we're going to do kind of game show style. So we brought on the most of the Money Insights team, as far as the agents, advisors that are out there working with clients. And this will be a good chance to kind of test the knowledge base of the team. And they don't know any of the questions that are coming. So let's see, we technically have 4 contestants. Rod and I are going to be the judges. And the good news, or I don't know if it's good or bad news, but the good or bad news is they do have the chance. Our contestants do have an opportunity to phone a friend in the form of Rodney or myself. Did I cover? Okay, so Rod and I are both going to give scores 1 through 10, and then we're just going to add them up and determine the winner at the end. So pretty simple, straightforward. These are going to be all personal finance related questions. To be totally honest, they're questions that I think our team should know. So it'll be a good opportunity to see how sharp they are. So that's the plan. Okay. Does anyone have anything to add before we get into our actual game and questions? Do you have any questions, concerns, thoughts?
I was feeling good. I'm with John. I feel a little nervous now.
You're feeling good. Good. I'm glad. Okay. So we have 4 categories. We have retirement, we have life insurance, we have investing, we have miscellaneous, and we have for Tim. Okay.
Maybe I'll give some special category.
Tim gets his own special category. So those are the categories that we're dealing with. Does anyone want to volunteer to go first?
I'll do it. I'm in.
Okay, Brennan, I like it. Most firms take the stance that they either like whole life or index universal life, but at Money Insights, we like both. Why?
Great question. And just to be clear here, I don't know if you've covered this, but you're scoring me on completeness of answer and, fairly time sensitive, concise.
And accuracy. So all of those
And
things.
accuracy.
Yep.
Okay.
Glad you clarified.
Okay, great question. So the reason why Money Insights likes both whole life and index universal life products, really it's because there's room for both in somebody's plan. Depending on what their objectives are, one will fit better than the other, whether it's whole life or index universal life. But both of them are phenomenal products. Both of them have a place in a portfolio for different reasons. For example, a whole life product that we use for the investment optimizer, that's going to be for the high income earner that is consistently investing in alternative assets. And that provides a level of stability, predictability. It keeps their money liquid and accessible so that they can use it for alternative asset, alternative asset investing. And the index universal life policies can be built just like we build our whole life policies, which they're going to be built for efficiency and cash value accumulation, but they're going to be used in our capital avalanche strategy. And that's going to help us in different areas in that strategy, capturing higher rates of return within our policy.
Okay, Brennan, good answer. I thought that was really good. I'm going to turn it to Rod first to give our first score of the day.
Okay, I'm going to go with an 8. And let me just say this. This isn't Google review. We don't give everybody 5s or 0s, or I guess 1. Right? That's what you always see, right? Either 5 or a 1.
Absolutely.
A 10 is going to have to be like perfection on the beam.
Yeah.
So
8's
it was
pretty good.
8 is good. Yeah, 8 is good.
Thank you.
Okay. I thought that was so a couple of things. One, I thought you did a nice job giving examples, like real life examples, hit on most of the kind of core stuff that I would have hit on. I thought it was very much 8 worthy as well. So that's the number that I was going for. However, I am going to bump him 1 up because he was willing to take a shot as the first person to answer a question. So
nice.
I'm giving
Bonus
Brennan
points.
a 9 for that. Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to these questions or to the points. Okay. So how about this, Brennan? You get to pass the baton to the next person. Who would you like to take the next question?
I think Blake needs to take the next question.
Blake, if you were asked whether it makes more sense to pay off your house or invest more of your money, what would you tell them?
It's going to depend on the type of person that I'm talking to. So if you are a net spender, you have a hard time saving money, I think that paying off your house can be a form of forced savings. That being said, most of the people that we're working with are net savers and good investors and have the ability to earn a much higher rate of return than what they're paying on their mortgage. So for the high majority of people that we're working with, I would want the longest mortgage possible, pay the minimum to the bank as much as possible so that I can be in control of my capital for as long as possible and then go out and be productive with it and earn a high rate of return.
Okay, that was pretty dang good too. Rod, what are you giving Blake for his answer?
I'm giving Blake a 7.
7? Oh, did you see his face? Blake is not happy with that. Okay. What can you give us justification? Why did you give? Because 7's a really good score still. So
It's still good. Yeah,
Blake
there's no reason to be
7?
disappointed. So I thought, certainly accurate, right? I felt like he nailed some stuff. He even came at a little bit of a different angle in terms of the net saver versus net spender side than, that's something that I wouldn't have come up with. But I just felt like there could have been a little additional clarity on it. So I just.
Okay. I liked your conciseness. So I'm going with an 8 on that score. I thought it was super solid. Okay. Blake, who's
I have
next?
a quick plug.
Plug.
Quick. I want to mention something here. So there's another answer, and I thought Blake did a phenomenal job, but I don't want to give too much away, but this is a reason for somebody to join into our virtual summit because there might be an opportunity to do both at the same time.
That's good.
Whoa.
That's a good tease.
And that's going to be Adam Carroll.
Yep. Adam's got some interesting concepts to use around that. So I like it. That's a good point. Okay. So, who's next? Blake, did you decide yet?
Yeah, it's definitely John.
John Reeves, you are next. John, okay, this is quite the question. I'm excited to hear how it goes. Okay, John, from your perspective, what does it mean to be rich?
I should know this because I recently read, as you guys know, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think it's, in my mind, I like the cash flow idea. I like the idea of it isn't even so much how much you've accumulated and how much you're sitting on, but it's a determination of, do you actually need to go back to work a day in your life or not? And that might mean you have no assets today, but if you have cash flow, I agree with that. Actually, Robert Kiyosaki's assessment there. I think that's true wealth. And that's why I'm here. I'm trying to solve that for myself and for other people.
Okay, well said. I thought that was a solid answer as well. Rod, what do you got?
I thought it was good. I'm going to go with the 6.
Okay. Do you have any justification or just
yeah.
'cause?
So, I mean, obviously I like the answer. Anyone that knows me knows I totally agree with that whole idea of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, having enough cash flow, passive cash flow to replace your active working cash flow. And maybe if you're going conciseness, then I'm going completeness. I just felt like there could have been a little more.
You could have added something to it.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I thought it was good. I'm going with a 7. Although I've noticed a trend with Rod, so he just goes down a little bit each
Tim,
one.
you might
He
be in
gets a little.
trouble.
So Tim, don't expect
nervous.
anything better than a 5 from Rod. I'm just kidding. Okay, Rod, are you keeping score?
I
You have
am.
the score?
Yeah.
Okay,
Do you want
good
to
work.
here? Let me pop it up here real quick so everybody can see.
Okay, I just want to
where
make
we
sure
are.
that we've got. Okay, excellent.
I'm interested,
Okay.
though, if Rod can be concise, what he might add. I'm actually genuinely interested.
Is this a phoning in for Rod?
I feel like I left out. I feel like I probably should have mentioned family, given it was your recent anniversary and Valentine's Day.
Okay, well, Rod, do you have any thoughts for John before we move on?
So maybe just all I would have done is just expounded a little more on the concept, because the answer assumes that anyone listening to it has read and understands the philosophy behind Rich Dad Poor Dad and you know what you were explaining. So that was it. I would just explained a little more of what that is and you know where he's coming from with it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's fair.
Nothing to do with family. Just kidding.
I mean, I would be lying if I said I wasn't thinking about that. Like, you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health or you don't have, you know, people you love around you, then
that's fair. Like, so from a philosophical standpoint, there's money and then there's wealth, and like it's a little bit tricky. But the word rich is a little bit tricky too, because oftentimes refers more to just money. But again, you can go a lot of directions with it. Okay, John, you don't get to pick because Tim has not gone yet. So Tim's our man. Tim, what is the one stock that everyone listening to this podcast absolutely must buy if they want to get rich overnight? All right, Tim, let's see what you got.
Christian.
Okay. So the for Tim one is a joke. He can't answer that. Tim is our resident securities expert, and he has more compliance oversight than the rest of us. So I'm obviously just kidding, Tim. Although, what is the answer to that? Just kidding.
You have to call and set up a consultation with me, Christian.
All right. For Tim is out. So Tim's questions are done. I guess that's it. No, I'm just kidding. Tim, what you're perfectly capable on all these other ones. Tim, what are the 3 most common characteristics you tend to see in your most successful clients?
First characteristic is the ability to be efficient and optimize for a good decision. So be able to spend just enough time to understand a concept and be able to execute on it and move forward. So decisiveness, but just enough information to make a really good decision. That's clearly number 1. Number 2 is a really innate sense for knowing people, how they're motivated, how they're incentivized, and putting all that together in a way that has people bring out the best in themselves and work towards a common solution. And then third would be, some level of technical expertise in their area, whether that's, professionally, or if it's a business, understanding their domain in which they do business, understanding their industry. So those are the 3.
Okay, I like it. Specialization was okay. So let's go through 'em. We had specialization. The first one was decisiveness. The second one was knowing people, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I think those are really great. Rod, what you got for Tim?
I got a 7.
Okay. Do you have any
At least I
thoughts
beat
on
John.
why, or yes or no why? Just what do you think?
Yeah, no, I felt like number one, it was maybe a tough question in terms of like on the spot coming up with it, and so I thought I did a really good job with that. And maybe again, I would have been looking for a little bit more in some of that, just for like what is it about those characteristics that makes them more successful? And maybe for everyone else, it was just a given, like that people are like, Rod, really? But anyway, that would have been the thing I would have liked.
Okay, well, so this is interesting because you're having to appease both judges who are looking for different things. I thought it was a good answer. I give it an 8. I'm having a hard time going like above the 8, but I did think it was an awesome answer to go on the spot and I was looking to see if Tim just like threw some word out there that then he like tried to fit, but it felt to me, and even if he faked it well. It felt to me like those are genuine things you have to like. That last one, I just didn't see it coming. But then when you said it, Tim, I was like, yeah, you absolutely, you have to have a way to like create wealth. And usually that tends to be in some sort of specialization. So anyway, I thought it was a really good answer. I'm giving you an 8, Tim. Okay. Nobody needs us, Rod, which is probably true. I don't think anyone's going to need us, but if you do,
Yeah,
we do have a couple of questions that are a little bit more technical that might be situations where we could use Rod's help. Okay, so our score after round 1: Blake 15, Brennan 17. Okay, John 13, Tim 15. Okay, it's a close match. Here we go. Let's switch up the order this time. We'll start with Tim. You're getting 2 in a row, Tim. Is that okay?
That's perfectly fine because I've got a strategy, and I'll reveal it after the question is over.
all right.
I love it. Okay. I'm waiting for the big reveal. Okay, Tim, could you please compare the similarities between real estate and life insurance?
I'm going to phone a friend, and it's going to be Rod.
Okay, that's a good thought, Rod. Could you please, Rod, take over the question and compare the similarities between life insurance and real estate?
Okay. Well, first of all, they're both assets. They hold value. Secondly, they are viewed by banks as something that could easily be used as collateral. So you can collateralize them, which in the case of life insurance, it already is fairly liquid, but that loan creates a level of liquidity where you don't have to actually take the money out. You can tap into the value while leaving the account alone. And a similar thing happens with the house. Obviously, it's not liquid by itself in the same way unless you sell it, but you can take a loan against it and create that liquidity. The house stays there. It continues to appreciate. It does its thing, but you can have that, in this case, a HELOC against it to where you can tap in and create some liquidity in a very similar way.
We finished, Rod? Is there anything else?
Yeah, I think that's
okay.
those are my
Okay,
thoughts.
excellent. Good answer. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to... Oh, wait, we can't let Tim score it. That doesn't make any sense. So we're going to have... I can't have anybody else score it. You guys all have a
No,
dog
Christian,
in
I
the
think we
fight.
just take your score and we double it.
Okay, I feel like that was a 7 score. 7
Ooh,
score.
sorry, Tim.
So that's 7 times 2, 14. That's still pretty darn good. That's solid.
So you think that Rod was worse than all the other people that just gave answers?
No, how would that?
Or you
Why
just
would
you
I
just
say
saw
that?
right through the
I
strategy,
gave
which
lots
was
of 7.
pick the more generous judge, take the really technical expertise, and put them together.
Backfired. The
I
strategy
didn't realize
backfired.
we were going to get anger on this. We're going to leave with anger and resentment. Okay, so my logic on it is just that I thought that we could have hit on like similarities from a tax standpoint, some of those types of things to complete the response a little bit more. That's all. But I thought it was a good response. It was solid. Okay. Tim, you get to decide who gets the next question.
Well, I just like the reverse snake order. We're going with John.
John, but in 2 minutes or less, describe the primary differences between how IUL and whole life grow cash value.
I'm phoning a friend.
Okay. Who are you phoning?
It's going to be Christian this time.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to talk. Okay. So whole life grows in a couple of ways. First, it grows through the guaranteed interest rate. Right now, most companies are paying about 3%. In addition to that, you're getting the dividend. Technically non-guaranteed, but we work with companies that have been paying them for 180 years. So we feel pretty good about the way that grows. The IUL, on the other hand, is tied to a market index, and the money is not directly invested in it. You have a cap and a floor, which basically means that, well, I'll give an example. Let's say my cap is 10% and my floor is 0. If the market did 10% or more, I would get 10%. If the market did a negative return, I would get just 0 for that year. So that's basically the way that the whole life and IUL grow. Okay, that's my response today. Hopefully I was under 2 minutes. I think I was.
You were under 2 minutes.
Okay,
and
Rod, passing it to you.
I'm going to give you a 9.
Ooh, man. I had the advantage of writing the questions, to be fair.
Yeah. And, but it's very subjective, Tim. Let's just relax over there. But anyway, there were specific things that I had in mind, and you nailed them like clockwork. There was one thing that you could have done.
Dang it.
Because you talked about if it was 10 or over, and you talked about if it was a negative.
And then I
just
missed the
clarity
between.
In between. Yeah, if you got a 5,
I
then it
felt
would be a 5.
I felt that.
So that
Gosh.
would have gotten you to a 10. But
Shoot.
hey, 9 times 2 is 18.
I felt that. I was debating between going more concise or anyway, and I should have known. You're the judge. You like completeness.
Yeah.
Huge win for John. Major blow to Tim. Huge crush.
Well said, Brendan. Well said. Okay, so
Thanks,
that was
Christian.
fun.
I needed that.
My pleasure. Happy to help. Okay, so that takes out. We only have 2 more life insurance questions, just so everybody knows. We have 6 retirement questions. We have 4 more miscellaneous questions, 4 more investing questions. Okay, so that's what we've got going on. John, who's up next?
Trying to remember. Reverse snake. Is that Blake?
Yep. Okay, Blake the Snake Brogan. Could you describe for us a situation where using a qualified plan actually does make sense as a high income earner?
Yeah. So if you're someone who's making, let's say, $600K or $1 million a year, or significantly more than you're living on, right? It might make sense in that situation to put some money into a qualified plan during your working years. Because obviously with the qualified plan, we get a tax deduction on the front side, but as the money, it grows tax deferred, but as you take it out, it's fully taxable. So if you're someone who believes you're making way more money than you'll be living on in retirement, and you also have some confidence that the government is not going to dramatically increase the tax rate by the time you get to retirement. So maybe you're 55 or something like that, and you're going to get to retirement age where you can withdraw the money soon, and you don't think taxes are going to double in that time. That's a time where it might make sense to use a qualified retirement plan as a way to save money for retirement.
Okay. Thank you, Blake. Rod Zabriskie, what's your score for Blake?
I'm going to go an 8.
Ooh, that was impressive. Okay, that's really good. Do you want to elaborate or no?
No, the question was give an example, and he gave, I thought, a really good, compelling example.
Okay, so I just want to get some clarity on the response before I give out my my score here. Are you suggesting, Blake, that somebody that's like, 40, whatever, let's say they're 45 years old, they're making far more money than they're actively living off of. You're saying that situation is one that you feel like it makes sense for a high income earner to use a qualified plan. Is that accurate?
With the caveat being, what do you trust that tax rates are going to go to?
With the caveat,
15 years
depending on
from now.
taxes. Okay. I'm going to give that one a 5. And here's my reason. My reason is because I would probably not immediately think that somebody in that situation should use. Now, if you would have said they're 55 years old and haven't been good savers up to that point, they need to catch up, then I'd say, okay, I think it makes sense to sock a bunch of money in there. Or if you said like their physician and their physician group offers a defined benefit plan and they can either participate or not participate, I think I would have probably anyway. So for that reason, but again, this is very subjective. So that's my thoughts on it. Okay, Blake, who's next? And by the way, cred. Actually, I have to change it to a 6 from my 5 because I got to give him cred for being the first one to dive into the retirement world in an area he admittedly wasn't as confident. Okay.
Let's finish the snake. Brennan, you're up.
Let's do it.
Okay, Brennan, can you tell us the basics of a Roth IRA conversion?
In terms of, well, I'll just answer the question with what I think.
What is a Roth IRA conversion? Basically?
Okay, so a Roth IRA conversion is when you have a traditional IRA and you are essentially just transitioning that money over into a Roth IRA, and that's going to require a few different things. You're going to pay taxes when you do that. You're not going to pay penalties because it's a transfer from an IRA to a different IRA. So really all you have to do is pay the taxes at your current tax bracket. And all you're doing is transitioning that money from a taxable qualified plan of a traditional IRA to a tax deferred Roth IRA.
Okay, well said. Rod, what you got?
I'm going to go 7.
Okay. Why a 7?
I just felt like, again, going back to what earlier when I talked to John, maybe just a little more definition around, hey, here's what an IRA is, here's what a Roth IRA is, and then you're making that conversion. So I think you took some things for granted in as far as people understanding what those were.
Okay. So you're suggesting maybe start by defining the IRA and Roth IRA and then moving into the conversion. Okay. Yeah. I thought it was that. I think that's a fair assessment. I'll give it an 8. I wasn't really thinking that. I just thought you defined what it was really solidly. Okay. Brennan, you get to decide who's next.
This is exciting.
Exciting.
I think we're going to go and mix up the order. I think we're going to go Tim.
Okay, Tim, bad news. You have no more questions as a reminder. So just kidding. Okay, Tim, what are the differences between a defined contribution and a defined benefit plan?
So if you think about it just in the basic definitions, defined contribution. So you're figuring out how much you want to contribute to the plan. So you can dial that up or dial that down. This is most plans out there on the market today. Unless your group is being creative and really trying to think outside the box, most plans out there are defined contribution. This is your typical 401k, where you are contributing an amount. Maybe you've got a match, something like that. You're contributing money, and the hope is someday you can turn that into an income stream. Defined benefit, on the other hand, is where you are going to be provided some kind of defined benefit when you get into retirement, some sort of a cash flow stream. And so the defined contribution plans have really taken over. It used to be that defined benefit plans ruled the day, and most people had an employer pension that they could pull their funds from. So the defined defined benefit plans these days, if you're creative and structure them properly, can be a really cool tool for you to put in place as an employer. But the vast majority of plans out there are defined contribution these days, because a lot of times these employers wanted to transfer the risk of providing that benefit to the participants, as opposed to maintaining the responsibility of providing that benefit in-house.
Okay. Excellent response, Tim. Rod, what you got?
I'm going to go with an 8.
Okay.
So I thought he was pretty thorough. Maybe the one area that I would have wanted to see a little more clarity on was just limits. So the IRS is limiting on the contribution side. They're capping how much you can contribute each year. And on the defined benefit plan, they're capping, or they create the limits based on a limit in how much income that you're able to create later in life.
Okay, we're in pretty well lockstep, Rod. The only thing I thought that could have improved, Tim, was just basically adding like the reason that somebody, or maybe, and specifically, I was thinking about maybe the advantage of using one or the other in various situations. Okay, but excellent response. I also went with an 8. Okay, Tim.
Blake the Snake is next.
Blake the Snake Brogan. Here we go, Blake. For 20 points. Very different than the other questions. For 20 points, Blake, we describe ourselves as the alternative wealth building firm for high income earners. So the first question is why, and what is your role within helping people build wealth?
So we are the alternative wealth building firm for high income earners, because some of the strategies that we teach are best suited towards helping high income earners build wealth. So maybe quick background, because I have been doing the insurance thing for, pushing a decade now. And I've seen a lot of how these strategies are marketed and explained to people. And frankly, I came to the realization that it's really the high income earners who are the ones who are most benefited by these strategies. So I want to work with people who are higher income earners for various reasons. So what do we do, or what do I do, is really basically try to provide the education on these strategies. So when people come in, maybe they've heard the concept, but a lot of people aren't in the life insurance world or hear a lot about that in their day-to-day life, right? They might hear about other types of investments, whether alternative or more market-based assets. And so what I try to do is just provide to them the education on how the strategies works, what's the benefits, what's the things to be aware of, and let them come to a decision based upon the information that we give them. Is this going to be a good fit for you or not? And we kind of work with people to try to figure that out. And then if it makes sense, we start the relationship, and then we try to grow it from there.
Good response. Rod, what you got?
I'm going to go with an 8. So number one, I felt like, especially in that spot where you were saying that you felt like that the strategies are especially applicable for high income earners. I think you just missed a chance for clarity on that, because you kind of took that as a given and then moved on. And then secondly, maybe just a little more focus on the alternative investment part of it. So the alternative wealth building firm for high income earners, and focusing a little more on that.
Okay, I thought it was good. I'm going to give it a 7. My main reasons for a 7, well, first off, I thought it was solid, like hit on a lot of the reasons that we feel the way we do. I was hoping that you would kind of hit on this new narrative that I keep like yelling toward you guys, or at least I feel like I keep saying it to you guys. And that is that we have our expertise is obviously in life insurance based strategies for one, but we're also experts at facilitating other investment opportunities that people can use in conjunction with the life insurance based strategies that we teach. So those are kind of the two roles that I think about. And both are obviously super important. Okay, that was good though, Blake. You got 15 out of a possible 20. Okay, who's next?
We'll go to Brennan.
Okay, Brennan. Brennan, how do we recommend people come up with the right contribution number when they're using the investment optimizer?
This is a phenomenal question because it's going to be different for each individual depending on their circumstances. However, in a general sense, and generally when we're meeting with people after we've had a handful of conversations, at least gotten through most of the educating that Blake was talking about previously and helping them understand how these products work. Once somebody understands fully how the products work, that's when they kind of get to this place where it starts to make more and more sense to get every single dollar that they're planning to invest in alternative assets through the investment optimizer first. So generally, that's typically the recommendation that is going to be made, is that any dollars that are going to be used or planning to be used, typically on a yearly basis. Obviously, we can't do that if we have, large lump sums. Sometimes people have these big liquidity events. Unfortunately, there's a few ways that we can get those into policies, but strategically getting it into a policy without creating a modified endowment contract, which is something that, I won't dive deep into, but it's something that we typically in a general sense, don't want to do. So we can't put in just one great lump sum. So typically it's on a yearly basis. What somebody is planning to invest in alternative assets, that's what we want to flow through the policy on a yearly basis.
Okay, excellent response. Rod, Brennan is your protege.
Yes.
How did you feel like he did on this?
I felt I'm going to give him a 6.
Oh,
Whoa.
So here's
Whoa.
what happened. There are two really major categories in this, and you hit on the one, and I thought you did excellent on it, and kind of started into the other one. But the other part of it is just the way we'll talk about it is, on the one hand, we want to try to capture all those dollars, but on the other hand, as far as the whole funding range concept, we also want to make sure the minimum end of the range is something that is totally comfortable for them.
Okay, that's a fair assessment. So he did get the basics of the idea of the money that you're investing in the alternative space. That's the money that it generally makes sense to flow through the policy. And I think that's right on. And then you're just saying we could have hit on how we create like that funding range of, minimum.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Because a lot of times what happens is someone says, well, I'm setting aside X amount, or I'm hoping to and planning on setting aside X amount toward investments. And in a lot of cases, that is a good number for their max. But we also do want to just make sure that, and just to create clarity for people, we often show an example of 100,000 a year going in, but that creates a funding range of somewhere between 20 to 25,000 as a minimum, up to 100,000 a year as a max. That minimum end of the range, we just want to make sure that that's totally comfortable for the person, even in a bad year, COVID's happening or whatever, that they can still hit that minimum.
Yeah, at least early on. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Excellent. I am going to go with a 7. I thought it was, can I just be honest with you, Brandon? I thought it was better than Rod actually brought it down for me. So if I would have scored you first, you might have gotten an extra point. You probably would have gotten an extra point. But he brought up a legitimate point. Although I will say this, even though you may have missed that part, you did bring in some other points that I thought were interesting and useful. So caveats and situations. Okay. Let's see. Brennan, who's next?
I think John needs to go.
Okay, John, do wealthy individuals need a budget? Why or why not?
Absolutely. In my mind, in my experience, the more money you have, sometimes the more you spend. So I think it doesn't really make a difference. In fact, you're just going to waste more if you don't have a good strategy, a good structure, a good budget. So yeah, I think that's about it. Absolutely.
Okay. Absolutely. Rod, what do you got?
I'm going to go with a 7.
Okay.
Because I mean, for what you did cover, I felt like it was
pretty accurate.
Because I agree. This is subjective, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with what you said. Anyway, I just felt like you could have expanded on it a little bit.
Okay, I'll go with the same 7, and I think probably the same thing. Like we probably could have defined like budget means different things for different people. And I don't budget, to be totally honest with you, right? Like I do have a strategy, but I certainly don't do like sit down and like balance a checkbook and budget like is historically thought of as budgeting. But I definitely make sure that I save a lot more money than I spend. So for what it's worth, what?
Does Heather budget?
More than I do, but she tries to rein me in.
And I think that's probably the clarity that I would have been looking for, is just like, because people who, like are forced to live on a budget, they have to know exactly where every dollar is going, and the wealthy maybe don't necessarily have to go to that level, but there should be some level of, hey, I'm setting aside this much for investing, or this much, or being wise in the decisions that they make, but they can obviously make different decisions as it relates to whatever, send their kids to private school or whatever, that others may not have that luxury. And so it's not necessarily a like budget knowing to the dollar how much they're paying when they send them to school. But anyway, that's
Gotcha.
Okay, good.
okay.
Excellent.
So should we look at the scores for this round?
Oh, okay. Yes, look at the scores. Is that really the scores?
Those are the scores right there.
That's
I
close.
kind of feel like our judging might be somewhat in question based on this, but we're going to keep rolling with it. You've been tougher. You've been tougher than me. This last round, we're going to have to be extra tough. We got to make sure that we create some separation, the winners from the losers.
And just for those who aren't seeing this on YouTube, so far we have Blake at 44, Brennan at 45, John at 45, and Tim at 45.
So Blake's losing
ridiculous.
This final
he
round.
is down by 1 point.
Everybody is in, and this tough round.
Okay, this one's for all the marbles, fellas. Okay, to kick things off, then who finished? John, you finished. So who's going to kick off the new round, the final round?
Let's go, Tim, again.
Lucky Tim. Okay, Tim, what is the Money Insights retirement cash flow philosophy? In other words, when do we believe you're in best position to quote unquote retire?
Well, you're in the best position to retire when your monthly cash flow significantly outstrips your monthly expenses. But I am going to phone a friend on this one, and I'm going to phone Christian.
Okay, well,
you can't. You already used your phone a friend.
Oh, I already used it. I only get one.
Oh, okay. We only get one. Okay,
Nice
sorry.
try, Tim.
I was thinking it was one of each, but I can see
That's
the
fair.
wisdom in only doing one in total. Can I just tell you, Tim? I don't think you need to phone a friend on this. I feel like you answered it exactly the way that I was looking for. So
I'll take that.
I'm going to give it a 9. That's what I was looking for. I was just looking for our philosophy is when cash flow outpaces what you're. So that's it. That's it. Simple. Rod, what do you got?
I'm going to go with 7.
Okay.
Mainly because we did a podcast recently where we expanded on it quite a bit to talk about different scenarios about your situation, what retirement means to you, that kind of thing. So
Okay.
part of it was just a test to see if Tim was really listening.
So the good news is Tim's one of the few here that I have more confidence that is listening, because he'll send me a message every once in a while and say like, hey, listen to this. Anyway. Okay, so 9 and a 7. That is 16 for Tim.
Puts him at 61, just for everybody keeping track.
Okay. Hopefully I wasn't overly generous on that, but that's what I was looking for.
I think
Tim.
it's appropriate.
Okay. You think it was appropriate? Okay, good. Okay, Tim, who's next?
We're gonna go with, I don't want Blake to just have the last question, because I think he'll just do something dramatic and try to take home the win. So I'm gonna take a little bit air out of sails, and Blake's next.
What's the most common question you could ask from clients?
Why isn't everybody doing this?
Okay, good. And can you answer why?
Yeah, so it's some version of that, which is all I've heard about of life insurance is negative, or I guess I just didn't really know how it works, or people in my community. Now, depending on what community they find us through, this answer might be different. But at some point in the conversation, it typically is like, I wish I would have started this 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I mean, I'd say 75% of the conversation I have, people mention, I wish I would have started this X amount of years ago. So maybe why isn't everybody doing this might be a little bit of a stretch, but it's really more, why was I not familiar with these strategies when I was your age or 40 or whatever the case may be?
Okay. Excellent response, Rod.
I want to know what
Jeff?
your answer is though when they say that. So why doesn't everybody know about it?
Well, the joke I often go to is because I hadn't met you yet, right?
Okay.
I like
you
it.
and I hadn't
like
crossed
it.
paths. No, what we do is, yes, it's utilizing life insurance, but it's in a totally different category of what they know about life insurance up until that point. So, the way that we structure the policies are different. The way that we're utilizing them is different. The fact that the insurance isn't the investment, rather it's the place that we're keeping our cash before we fund the investment. Like that stuff's just not talked about on CNBC or on the radio. So, yeah, that's what
I like.
That's what comes up pretty frequently.
Okay, I like it. Rod, are you prepared? Do you have any follow-up questions, or are you
I know,
prepared to
I'm
score?
ready. I'm ready.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, I'm going to 9.
Oh, a 9 for Blake. Oh, I hate to do this, but I'm also going with a 9 on that response. I thought it was pretty dang solid.
I think
Hit
Tim
on
was
all
right.
the core stuff.
Come up with something dramatic, and he did. He got the joke in
All
there.
right.
He deserves it. He deserves it.
Dang it. Okay, Blake, nice job. All right, that's helpful because you were down by 1, and so that was a strong response.
So
Okay,
that, just if for everybody keeping score at home, that puts Blake at 62.
62. Pretty impressive. Okay, who's next, Blake?
Brennan, take your shot here, man.
Is Brennan the last one?
Nope.
Oh, John, do we have you two? Okay.
John after me. But I've been saving up my secret strategy for this last question.
Okay. So. Okay. Speaking strictly from a life insurance perspective, how would you recommend someone figure out how much death benefit actually makes sense?
From a strictly death benefit life insurance perspective.
Yep.
The general consensus around, and I'd say this industry-wide, would be 10 times somebody's income in general. Okay. And that's somebody that makes $40,000 a year up to $1 million a year, $2 million a year. That's just industry standard, what people will tell you. I like to dive into it a little bit deeper myself. And I like to start connecting the dots is what I call it. And when I say connecting the dots, I try to think through personally, if something happened to me, right, and I'm out of the picture, what do I want taken care of for my family? And I start to list off, okay, well, I have a car payment that I need taken care of. I have mortgages that I need taken care of. I've got funeral expenses that need to be taken care of. And then I also think through a stream of income for my family, right? Because I don't have children yet, but I already have enough death benefit for 2 or 3 children to be able to make it so that they could be 20 years old and my spouse would still be having a stream of income coming in. So I like connecting the dots. That's going to be a lot more than 10 times somebody's income. The maximum you can get that is typically allowed by an insurance carrier is 30 times, depending on your age, could be 25 or 20, depending on how old you are. But somewhere between 20 and 30 times your income is what you can actually get or qualify for. So I would say at a minimum 10 times your income, at a maximum 30 times your income. But I would certainly recommend connecting the dots. And here is my strategy. I would now like to phone a friend and have Rod complete my answer.
Oh, good idea. Okay, Rod, you no longer get to
That's the downside.
score the answer. So
Yeah, that's the
okay,
downside.
what you got? And Well, that might be good. That'll be interesting. Okay, Rod, do you have anything to add or subtract from Brennan's
Yeah,
response?
he read my mind because there were things that I was thinking, okay, well, this will do. So because you would also want to think about people from estate planning standpoint. So here's the way I'll categorize what you talked about. You talked about income replacement, and you talked about kind of like this needs base of things like connecting the dots. But then beyond that, you want to make sure that from a business perspective that your business is taken care of. And again, this doesn't necessarily apply to everyone, but if we're talking about an approach that we need to take in the role that we play and meeting with lots of different people, then you want to make sure you're thinking about, from a business perspective, what holes are created by your passing. And then beyond that, I would say, from a retirement planning perspective, there are things that we can do with life insurance as it relates to like pension maximization or other things like that. There are voices out there that say no one needs life insurance past their working years, and I would disagree with that. I think there are definitely ways that we can do that. And then in that case, it is the death benefit that we're talking about here. No longer, I'm not referring to tax-free income from the cash value. I'm talking about what the death benefit can do for someone in retirement. And then from an estate planning standpoint, just making sure that either from an efficiency of tax, like the estate tax, and or liquidity, as I'm passing on my business or real estate or other things like that, I need liquidity to go with it. Then having death benefit there that takes care of those things as well.
Okay, that was an awfully complete answer. I think it's going to be hard for me. Okay, I have not given
Was it
out
more
of
than
10.
2 minutes?
I didn't have a response. I didn't have a 2-minute caveat on that one. I'm going to give that one a 9. I don't know how to not give it pretty much everything I could think of and maybe a couple extras. So well done, the combination of Brennan and Rodney.
Okay. So if everyone keeping score at home, this puts Brennan at 63.
63. That was really painful because in that single score, I launched him into the lead.
Well, here's what I can say.
Well, it was a good strategy and a good response, Brennan.
For this round, that it's gone 61, 62, 63. So John's next, and we can only conclude.
Next. That's true.
I'm thinking
That's true.
These are the ages higher.
All right. So John. Okay. So we have to talk about the difference between traditional and alternative investing. And we tend to lean in general more toward the alternative side. Why?
All right. So if by traditional we mean kind of what everyone else is doing, right, to some extent, most people are putting a lot of their retirement and current investments on the stock market or other kind of securities markets. And in my view, that's extremely risky. We've seen cycles every 10 years or so, huge dips in the market. And yes, it's climbing over time, and that's been great for Americans. That's not true everywhere in the world, and maybe that's not going to be true in the US forever either. But even in the US, if you retire on one of those down years, you've just lost 20%, 30% of your retirement potentially. So for me, investing in the stock market, whether that's through your retirement account or just through your ordinary assets, that's an extremely risky way to put too much money. You should put some money, and it's a great place to invest. It's great for companies. It's great for the economy. It's not necessarily great for individuals. So for me, the alternative route, I hadn't even realized this until joining the team. Actually, there's some amazing opportunities to make double-digit returns in very safe ways compared to the stock market, life insurance being one of them, max overfunding whole life. It's one of the great ways we do that. Also premium finance, using other people's money to leverage a very safe investment, again, make double-digit returns potentially. So yeah, I'm all about traditional investments, alternative as opposed to traditional, including, by the way, real estate and cash flow and all sorts of other things we offer. There you go.
Excellent. Thank you, John. Okay, Rod. Score John's
I'm going to
response?
say an 8.
Okay, that was good.
I thought it was a solid answer. There were a few things that you could have mentioned in addition, like the tax benefits and flexibility and freedom and other things like that. But I thought by and large it was very accurate and mostly complete.
Yep, I thought it was good too. I'm going with an 8 as well, and basically for the same basic reasons. There's probably a couple other characteristics that we generally like a lot, tax being a big part of that, and so that might be the only piece that I would have added to it. Okay, so does that wrap up our? Okay, here we are. Our final score. We have John and Tim tied at 61. We have Blake coming in second place at 62 points. And Brennan got the first place trophy with a crafty 4th or 5th round maneuver to get the W.
Well done.
Well done. Okay. So, Brennan, we'll have to talk offline about what your prize is, but here's what we'll do. We'll keep the score handy. And if we decide to do some more Money Insights game shows, then we'll have these scores ready to roll and we can like build off of it. Because I thought this was fun. I thought it was cool. Did you guys have a good time?
Yeah, that's
Loved
great.
it. That was
Okay,
awesome.
hopefully the listeners thought it was interesting too. Okay, thanks everybody for hanging out with us for the Money Insights game show episode, and we will see you next week.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Money Insights podcast. To learn more about the financial and business strategies discussed in this show, please visit moneyinsights.net. The views and opinions expressed on the Money Insights podcast are not intended to be individual financial, tax, or legal advice. Always consult with the appropriate advisor before making financial decisions. And if you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. This will help others find the show and learn wealth building strategies for themselves. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.